to me, I think there's so much of the personality. I think some people take it just really personally when you start attacking a particular work. You know, again, back to the issue of the comment about the heckler, where hecklers go after comedians and insult them just for the sake of insulting them. I myself personally don't I don't hate Brian Bendis himself as a person. I'm sure he's a very good person. He's a decent person. He does a lot of good things in comics. He does a lot of good things in his community and overall. He's a very successful writer. I do not begrudge him that. But that doesn't mean I can't have an issue with his work. That doesn't mean I can't have an issue with the product that he puts out there. I might be a fan of Joe Quesada or not. I am not attacking him personally when I say, you know what, I have an issue with this work that he's putting out. You know, now that's the way I look at it. I know you have more of a personal feeling, but you know, I think what has to be understood is that when we're talking about what people do and who the people are personally, there is a distinction when you criticize a person for what their work is and who they are as people. Those are two separate things. I don't know who Joe Quesada is as a person. In all my dealings with him, he's always come across as a fairly decent person, but mind you, I've had this much dealing with him. So if the guy's a total dill weed, I have no idea. But this was not the professional way of handling this issue. And, you know, yeah, I expect more from someone who's the head of the biggest comic book company in America right now. The head. You know, this is like, you know, just total foot in your mouth total sort of statement to be making. Contradicting yourself and kind of setting up this contradictory term. Mm-hmm. Later on, he goes into talking about the cold, hard reality of publishing and trying to sell our books to as many people as possible. So here's an example of what happens more often than you may think at Marvel. You may, from time to time, we'll be launching a title that doesn't focus very heavily on the superheroic. Although, which one is that? What book do they have at Marvel that's not a superhero book?
Well, are you talking about the Classics Illustrated line?
Yeah. And
is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, and Alias, which didn't go anywhere. You know, which was written by one of your top writers, and then the book had to be canceled or was changed to turn into The Pulse, which became
and it got worse.
Became like a superhero book at that point. You know, and then he goes on to address, you know, the original cover of Marvel Divas, I'm guessing, where the original cover of Marvel Divas wasn't as loud, he was saying. It needs to be a loud cover or a quiet cover, something that's more subtle or muted. So they said if they want Marvel Divas to succeed, they have to give make the cover more provocative. Which, to me, you know what this reminds me of? Remember in This Is Spinal Tap? When the band wanted to put that cover...
The black cover?
No, before the black cover. Where they wanted to have the picture of the girl on all fours
yeah.
and with a glove being shoved in her face, forcing her to sniff it because the album was called Smell the Glove. Yeah. This is the cover to Smell the Glove. And I guess the original cover that they were looking at was the black cover, you know, because it was not that.
But I'm sorry, if you need to put sex on your cover to sell the book, that's just... yeah, his whole bullshit between a quiet cover and a loud cover. Mm-hmm. How many books out there have quiet covers that sell very well, actually? Do you need to put sex on The Walking Dead? Do you need to put sex on Invincible's covers? Do you need to put sex on Invisible Iron Man? I mean, there's so many books out there that are I'm sure that he thinks are quiet covers that sell fine because you know what? It's on the inside of the fucking cover that counts.
Right. And I look at a lot of the indies that we have around here. I mean, those are very pretty muted, pretty understated covers that are more representative of what's inside. If you're telling me that this cover, this J. Scott Campbell picture of the Marvel Divas isn't representative of what's in the book, then that's misleading.
Yeah,
you know,
it shouldn't be the cover.
Yeah, and I mean, don't tell me that you can't do a well-written book about women that doesn't always overemphasize their sexuality outside, you know, making that the center of their persona. Because unfortunately, that's what this cover says, that it's about the sex. Heck, even the regular Ms. Marvel book and the Hellcat books didn't look like this. Again, the reality is this book is being written for guys. That's what it is. It's being written for guys. It's being written for fanboys.
That's what we talked about in the new Marvel solicitation.
Yeah.
They got to completely... They just threw their hands up and they abandoned the whole, like, this is for women thing. It's for fanboys. So, was it like, fanboys let your inner diva out?
Fellas.
Let your inner diva out.
Time to let your inner diva out, fellas.
So in the new part, they just gave up. Like, all right, it's not for women.
Right. Which is sad, because you're talking about a comic, you're talking about a company that is the leader in the industry right now, and can basically do whatever they want. And come on, guys. I know. You guys get tired of hearing this.
But it keeps coming up week after week. There's just something more to add, like more fuel to the fucking fire.
Oh, well, mostly, it's usually guys in comic shops. It's all guys. So why should we worry about girls? It's just guys. They're the ones who are going to read this. Well, you know what? If it's going to be just guys, you're knocking out a fairly significant portion of your population.
And that's why comics will never be as accepted in this country as it is all over the world.
Like in Europe and Japan, yeah, we've talked about that. Comic books here in America are in a
writing comics for men, all right, if that's the mentality, it's never going to get past a certain plateau, and we're at the fucking plateau.
Right.
We've been at the plateau for years.
Male-dominated comics, superhero comics, are a niche that have become the standard of the industry. They should be and just be a niche. For comics to succeed, for comics to grow and to thrive beyond what they are now, we need to open our minds more to other genres, other subject matters, other creators, other cultures, everyone. Everyone. And not just think, well, because this is what everyone now wants to read and what succeeds now, that's the way the formula should always be. If that were the case, if we only went with the status quo, we'd never have seatbelts in cars. Because cars, cars were perfectly fine 60 years ago being made of steel and weighing a fucking 1,000 pounds, and yet you could only get like 8 miles to the gallon in them. Oh, well, they're fine then. It's what works. Why change it? Well, it's change or die.
And a lot of you fans might not be a fan of manga, the Japanese comic book. But you have to, and I love this statistic, and it's just true, and it just drives me up a wall every time I think about it. 80% of Japan's population read comic books. Mm-hmm. It's 80 fucking percent. You know the percentage of Americans that read comic books? Less than 1. Yeah, I know we have a lot more people living in this fucking country than Japan, but I don't care. Like, it's like you take it state by state, and it's still less than 1%.
Right.
And do you know why? Because do you see the diversification in manga? They write for everybody.
Right.
Everybody. There is fucking comics for cooking. There's comics for soccer. Football. American is soccer.
Yeah.
I hate that term, soccer. There's manga about American football. There's a manga for everything. There's a whole huge line of just romance manga. It's just something for everybody. For kids, there's salaryman manga for guys in their 40s and 50s who are salarymen who work business jobs. There's comics written for them about them. I mean, you could be anything in Japan in any point in your life, any age, and there's a comic book for you.
Something representative of you.
Exactly.
Right. Not something that just ignores who you are and just tries to give an idealized or even an unrealistic version of you.
Exactly.